Have you ever heard of a love story that survived 100 years without a single witness willing to admit it existed? In a quiet Thai village, there is a house no one points at, a path no one walks after sunset, and a name elders lower their voices to avoid. Because this wasn't just a forbidden love. It was a love that refused to die. And the impossible part? Two people promised each other forever? And somehow, they kept that promise longer than a lifetime. But here's the question that still makes the village uneasy. If love can outlive memory, what happens when the truth finally remembers you? The village sat between rice fields and mist, where mornings smelled of wet earth, and nights hummed with insects so loud they felt alive. Houses stood close together, wooden walls stained by decades of rain, their floors raised just high enough to stay dry during floods. Life here followed patterns. Wake before sunrise. Work until sweat soaked through clothes. Eat together. Sleep early. Nothing unexpected was supposed to happen here. That's what people believed. I arrived as an outsider, invited by an old friend who had inherited his grandmother's empty home. He warned me before I came. Don't ask about the old house near the banyan tree, he said, half joking, half not. No one will answer you. Naturally. That was the first place I noticed. The house leaned as if tired, its roof sagging under the weight of time. A single window remained intact. Always dark. Even at noon. No laundry ever hung outside. No footsteps approached its door. Yet somehow, the dust on the path leading to it was never undisturbed. The first night, I couldn't sleep. The air was thick, pressing against my skin. Somewhere far away, a dog barked once, and then went silent. Then I heard it. A sound so soft, I almost convinced myself it wasn't real. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. As if whoever made them was afraid of waking the past. I sat up, heart tapping against my ribs. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. Too complete. And then a whisper, carried by the warm night air. Not a word. A name. I didn't recognize it. The next morning, I asked my friend about the old house. He froze. Not dramatically. Just enough to notice. That place is empty, he said quickly. Has been for generations. I told him about the footsteps. He laughed. But his eyes didn't. Villages make noises at night, he replied. Don't listen too closely. That was the first curiosity seed. And it took root fast. Over the next few days, I noticed small things. Fresh flowers placed near the banyan tree. Always white. Always replaced before they wilted. A faint scent of jasmine near the abandoned house. Even though no jasmine grew nearby. And once, just once, I saw the curtain in the dark window move. No wind. Just motion. That evening, I spoke to the oldest woman in the village. Her back was bent. Her hands permanently curved, as if still holding tools from a life of labor. I asked her about the house. Her fingers tightened around her cup. That story is finished, she said. Her voice trembled. Not with age, but with something else. What story? I asked gently. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, some loves are so strong, they become dangerous. That night, the footsteps returned. This time, they came closer. Closer than before. I held my breath, listening. The steps passed my window and continued toward the banyan tree. Without thinking, I stood up. My bare feet touched the cool wooden floor. Every instinct told me to stay inside. Instead, I opened the door. The moon painted the village silver. Shadows stretched unnaturally long. And there, beneath the banyan tree, stood a woman. Her hair was long and dark, tied loosely behind her back. She wore a simple dress. The kind villagers wore a century ago. In old photographs. She wasn't transparent. She wasn't glowing. She looked real. She turned her head slightly. As if she knew I was there. Our eyes met. Her expression wasn't frightening. It was tired. Deeply, endlessly tired. She raised one finger to her lips. Don't speak. Then she walked toward the old house. And disappeared inside. I didn't sleep at all. The next day. I broke the unspoken rule. I walked to the old house. The door wasn't locked. It creaked open. Complaining after years of silence. Inside. The air was cooler. Dust coated everything. Except one small table in the center. On it sat 2 cups. Recently used. My skin prickled. Against the wall hung a faded photograph. A man and a woman stood side by side. Not touching. But leaning slightly toward each other. Their eyes held something unmistakable. Love. And fear. Behind me. The floorboard creaked. I turned. The woman from the night before stood there. Up close. I noticed something strange. She looked young. Too young for a story buried a century deep. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. Her voice sounded like rain on dry ground. Who are you? I asked. She hesitated. I'm waiting, she replied. For what? For him. My chest tightened. How long have you been waiting? She looked toward the photograph. Longer than anyone remembers. She told me her name was Molly. A name the village had buried. 100 years ago. Molly had fallen in love. With a man from a rival family. Not enemies. Just divided by old pride. And older grudges. They met in secret. By the river. Under the banyan tree. They planned to leave together. But the village found out. The man was sent away. The family told everyone. He had abandoned her. Molly refused to believe it. She waited. Days turned into months. Months into years. People whispered. Then they stopped. Molly stayed. I promised I'd wait, she said. So I did. I swallowed. But 100 years. She smiled faintly. Love doesn't count time the way people do. Something felt wrong. Not impossible. Wrong. You haven't aged, I said. She nodded. Neither has he. A chill slid down my spine. That was the moment. My phone rang. The sound shattered the air. Molly flinched. And for the first time, fear crossed her face. They can't know, she whispered. Know what? That I'm still here. Before I could ask more. She stepped back. The room felt suddenly emptier. Then she was gone. That evening. My friend confronted me. You went to the house, he said. It wasn't a question. I told him everything. He listened in silence. Jaw tight. Hands clenched. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. My grandmother used to tell a different version, he said. In her story, Molly didn't wait. She disappeared. 3 years passed. That's what the village believed. Then, on a Tuesday morning, everything changed. A body was found near the river. No signs of age. No decay. As if time had forgotten her. The village panicked. They buried the truth. Along with the body. And swore never to speak of it again. My stomach twisted. Then who is the woman? I asked. My friend looked away. No one knows, he said. But sometimes, people say they see her waiting. That night, the footsteps came again. But this time, there were 2 sets. The footsteps didn't fade. They stopped directly outside my door. I sat on the edge of the bed. Heart racing. Ears straining to separate imagination from reality. Then, A knock. Not loud. Not urgent. 3 gentle taps. I opened the door. Molly stood there. And beside her, a man. He was tall. Shoulders straight despite the weight in his eyes. His clothes were simple, old-fashioned. And damp at the edges. As if he'd stepped out of memory itself. The air around them felt heavier. Like the night was holding its breath. You followed, Molly said softly. Her voice wasn't accusing. It was resigned. The man looked at me. And in that instant, my chest tightened so sharply. I had to grab the doorframe to stay standing. Because I recognized him. Not from photographs. From the way the villagers avoided the banyan tree. From the way elders paused mid-sentence. From the way silence swallowed certain names. You're the one who left, I whispered. His jaw clenched. I never left, he said. That sentence landed like a stone in still water. Ripples everywhere. We walked together toward the banyan tree. No one else was outside. No lights. No voices. Just us. And the hum of insects. That seemed suddenly too loud. He told me his name was Arun. A century ago. The night he planned to leave with Molly. He was intercepted. Not beaten. Not threatened. Promised. Promised land. Promised safety for his family. Promised that Molly would follow once things settled. He waited by the river. All night. She never came. 3 months passed. Then, on a morning heavy with fog, he drowned. Not by accident. By hope. I stayed, he said quietly. Because she promised. My breath caught. Molly's hands trembled. Not from cold. From memory. I waited because he promised, she said. Their eyes met. And for the first time, I understood something that made my skin prickle. They had been waiting for each other. In the same place. For 100 years. But never at the same time. Silence stretched between us. Then Arun looked at me. You see us now, he said. That means the waiting is breaking. What happens when it breaks? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his shirt and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Yellowed. Fragile. The letter was never sent. 5 words. Hard. Clean. The world seemed to pause around them. That was the moment everything reframed. The house wasn't abandoned. It was occupied. The footsteps weren't haunting. They were routines. The flowers weren't offerings. They were promises renewed. And the village's dark secret wasn't a forbidden love. It was a love that refused to move on. Until it was finally seen. Molly inhaled shakily. If we're seen, she whispered. We can't stay. The banyan leaves rustled. Though there was no wind. Arun took her hand. For the first time. Their fingers intertwined. Solid, warm, real. My throat burned. Will you disappear? I asked. Arun smiled sadly. No, he said. We'll arrive. The ground beneath the banyan tree felt suddenly lighter. As if something buried deep was finally being lifted. A sound echoed? Not a voice. Not a cry. A release. When the sun rose, the old house was gone. Not destroyed. Just finished. The path leading to it was covered in grass. Untouched. As if no one had walked it in decades. The villagers noticed. They didn't panic. They didn't ask questions. An elder placed fresh white flowers beneath the banyan tree and bowed her head. No whispers followed. That night, the village slept peacefully. For the first time in a century. Love doesn't always demand to be remembered. Sometimes, it just needs to be witnessed. And if you've ever waited for closure, for forgiveness, for someone who never came, maybe the hardest truth isn't letting go. Maybe it's realizing you were never alone in the waiting. The village changed in small ways first. So small. Most people wouldn't notice them. Unless they were already listening. The insects sounded softer at night. The air felt lighter. Like something invisible had loosened its grip. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something unfinished still lingered. On the third night after the house vanished, I woke just before dawn. Not from a sound. From absence. The usual hum outside my window. Gone. No insects. No distant roosters. No rustle of leaves. Silence so complete. It pressed against my ears. I stepped outside. Mist rolled low across the ground. Thick enough to swallow ankles. Then knees. The banyan tree stood ahead. Its branches dark against the pale sky. Someone was sitting beneath it. My pulse quickened. As I moved closer, the mist thinned. It was my friend's grandmother. She sat cross-legged on the earth. Eyes closed. Hands resting on her knees. I stopped a few steps away. She spoke without opening her eyes. "They're gone," she said. "But not finished." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" She opened her eyes then. And for the first time, they looked young. "When love waits too long," she said, "it leaves marks on the land." She pressed her palm into the soil. "This place remembers." A shiver passed through me. She told me something the village had never admitted. The night Arun drowned, 3 villagers saw him at the river. They heard him calling Molly's name. They did nothing. Not from cruelty. From fear. If they helped him, they would have to admit the lie. So they stayed hidden. And when his body disappeared beneath the water, they told themselves it was fate. That lie became the village's foundation. Built carefully. Passed down quietly. Secrets don't rot, the old woman said. They echo. As the sun crept higher, the mist began to lift. And that's when we saw it. 2 sets of footprints. Fresh. Leading away from the banyan tree. Side by side. They didn't fade at the edge of the village. They continued. Toward the fields. And beyond. A pause-worthy truth struck me then. Closure doesn't erase the past. It releases it. The villagers gathered later that morning. No one announced anything. No one explained. They simply stood near the tree. Heads bowed. As if attending a funeral. That was a century overdue. An elder stepped forward. And spoke a name. Molly. Another followed. Arun. No one flinched. No thunder cracked the sky. No curse followed. Instead, a long, collective exhale. That night, someone lit a lantern near the river. Then another. By midnight, soft lights lined the water's edge. Reflections trembling on the surface. No ceremony. No speeches. Just acknowledgement. I stood apart. Watching. And that's when I felt it. A hand on my shoulder. I turned. No one was there. But warmth lingered. Gentle. Reassuring. A replay-worthy thought formed. Slow and heavy. Some loves don't haunt places. They guard them. As days passed, the village returned to routine. But something subtle had shifted. People laughed louder. Arguments ended faster. Eyes met more often. The banyan tree no longer felt heavy. Children played beneath it. Their voices bright. Unafraid. One afternoon, as I prepared to leave, my friend walked me to the edge of the village. "Do you think they're at peace?" he asked. I thought of the footprints. The intertwined hands. The release I felt in my chest that morning. "Yes," I said. "But peace wasn't the gift." He frowned. "Then what was?" "The truth," I replied. Finally being spoken. As I stepped onto the road, The wind stirred behind me. For a brief moment. Just long enough to question myself. I heard footsteps. 2 sets. In sync. Moving forward. The village faded behind me. But the story didn't. Because some stories don't end where they begin. They travel. They find new listeners. They ask one quiet, uncomfortable question. What promise are you still keeping? That no one else remembers? And what would happen if you finally stopped waiting in silence? I didn't look back. But I smiled. Because somewhere between the mist and the morning light, 100-year-old love had finally learned how to arrive. And the village. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Not from fear. Not from confusion. But from the weight of understanding. I realized the story wasn't just theirs. It was everyone's. Every silence we carry. Every promise we cling to. Every memory we refuse to release. The next morning, I wandered back toward the banyan tree. The earth was soft from dew. Birdsong fluttered like scattered notes. Yet beneath it, a subtle hum remained. A heartbeat of something ancient. Near the base of the tree, I found a small bundle of letters, tied with faded ribbon. I recognized the handwriting. Molly's. The ink was faint but readable. Each letter dated across decades. Never sent. She had written to Arun. Every day she waited. Every day she hoped. Every day she believed. I picked up the top letter and read a line. I will find you in every lifetime. And if I must wait 100 years, I will. My chest tightened. Tears stung my eyes. I folded the letter back carefully. Then I noticed something else. At the edge of the tree's shadow. A shimmer of movement. A ripple in the air. Like heat from a fire. 2 figures stepped from it. Arun and Molly. They were smiling. Hands still intertwined. Not ghostly. Not fading. Alive, in a way that made my breath catch. You saw everything, Molly said softly. Her eyes glimmered. Reflecting dawn's first light. I did, I said. Then you understand, Arun said. Love does not end because people leave. It endures because it waits. Even in silence. Molly knelt and placed a hand on the letters. Now it's time to rest, she said. And let others live their stories. I didn't ask how. I didn't question why. I only watched as they turned. And walked toward the horizon. The morning mist embracing them. Like it had waited a century to do so. The letters remained. The banyan tree remained. The village remained. But the air felt different. Full of possibilities. Full of lives unburdened. I returned the letters to the tree. Knowing someone, someday, would read them. And feel the weight of waiting. Lift from their own heart. As I walked back, I thought of every secret I'd ever held. Every promise I'd ever made. Every love I'd never confessed. Somewhere, quietly, I felt the ground pulse again. A gentle heartbeat. A reminder that some stories never truly end. That night, the village slept peacefully. The banyan tree swayed gently in the breeze. And for the first time in a century, no one feared the dark. Because they finally understood. Some loves don't vanish. They wait. And when the world is ready, they arrive. I turned away from the tree. Heart full. And whispered to the empty night. Thank you for teaching me to wait. The wind answered. Softly. Like laughter carried across time. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.